Hello and welcome back to your daily English dose. Today, we're diving deep into a topic that's guaranteed to boost your study motivation. We're talking about a real blueprint for excellence.
Yeah, and we're not just, looking at grammar rules or vocab lists today. This is about mindset, specifically the mindset of the late, great Kobe Bryant.
Absolutely. Kobe was, well, he was so much more than just an amazing basketball player. He was a global icon, wasn't he?
Hmm.
And his dedication, his commitment, it almost seemed, well, superhuman sometimes.
Yep,
But that's the thing, right? It wasn't magic.
exactly. That's the core of it. His success came from this really structured, consciously followed philosophy. He called it the Mamba Mentality. So our mission today is to unpack this philosophy, this mental blueprint, and show you, the English learner, what made him great. And crucially, how those same powerful ideas apply directly to your journey, your path to mastering English.
Right. Because that's the key takeaway here, isn't it? Kobe didn't just win on talent alone. He had a method, a repeatable, actionable method. His legacy is so powerful because that blueprint, well, it's universal. We're going to try and translate his, let's say, extreme preparation into real, actionable steps for your daily study habits, whether you're, just starting with basic articles or tackling tricky idioms. So where do we start? The foundation of this mentality, it's maybe a bit surprising. It's this idea of strategic isolation, being an outsider.
Hmm. Think about his early life. He grew up in Italy.
Yeah.
That's quite different from the typical American upbringing for a future NBA star. And that experience, it planted the seed of self-reliance. He was this American kid in a completely foreign culture. He basically forced him to rely really deeply on his own internal drive, his own thinking, rather than, looking for validation from everyone around him.
Okay, I see the connection. For a lot of English learners, studying can feel isolating, can it? You feel like you're always operating outside your comfort zone, always the outsider. But Kobe's story suggests that this feeling, this outsider status, it can actually be a powerful training ground, a testing ground.
It really can be. I mean,
Yeah.
look at his decision jumping straight from high school to the NBA at just 18. That was highly unusual back then, a huge risk. But that decision, it was a very public display of the Mamba mentality in action. That willingness to take on a massive, overwhelming challenge. Because he had this unwavering confidence, but not just blind confidence built on his own preparation.
But isn't there a danger there, like being too isolated? How does a learner find the balance? You need that Mamba level internal focus, sure, just working on your own goals, but you also need feedback, right? From teachers, native speakers.
That's a really important point. His isolation wasn't about locking himself away completely. It was strategic loneliness. That's the difference.
Yeah.
Being culturally isolated in Italy or generationally, as a teenager in a league of adults, it wasn't really a disadvantage for him. It actually helped him develop this powerful internal compass. It allowed him to just totally immerse himself in his craft, away from all the distracting external noise, the constant evaluation.
Okay, got it. So the message isn't cut yourself off. It's more like stop constantly looking outwards for your self-worth. Stop comparing yourself. Like, am I as good as that person? Or what score did they get?
Yeah.
That just kills your focus on your own path.
Right. The most powerful learning, the deepest growth, happens when you focus internally on the task right in front of you, the lesson you need to learn now. External feedback, grades, whatever, they should just be data, useful information. It shouldn't be a source of, paralyzing self-doubt.
That makes a lot of sense. Okay, so let's unpack the core blueprint itself. Kobe actually talked about his code, which is why it's so useful. There are these 5 practical principles, right, that define the Mamba mentality. Let's try and translate them for someone learning English.
Okay, sounds good. The first principle is endless curiosity. Kobe's definition was simple. An unending adventure to find answers. Just always seeking to improve, always wanting to know more.
Right. So for an English learner, this is that drive, that refusal to just settle. Like if you read a sentence and mostly get it, maybe 90%. Endless curiosity means you have to chase down that last 10%. It means actually looking up that word you skipped or figuring out the subtle difference between say and tell, never stopping that personal investigation.
Exactly. Principle number 2, process over results. Kobe often said something like, a dream is the journey, not the destination.
Ugh, this one's huge for avoiding burnout, I think. Your main focus shouldn't be that distant goal of perfect fluency, which can feel impossible. The focus is just the consistency. Showing up every single day. Maybe you commit to 15 minutes of flashcards before work. That daily action is the process. And that process is what really matters in the moment. Don't get bogged down by fear of failure. Just focus on doing the study you planned for today.
Then the third one, and this one could be, well, pretty tough. Weaponize adversity. This means seeing pressure, challenges, even doubts, not as problems, but as valuable chances to grow.
Okay, weaponize adversity. That sounds intense, almost ruthless. So if you try to say something in English and it comes out totally wrong, maybe you mix up kitchen and chicken. Instead of feeling embarrassed or ashamed, you immediately see it as useful data. Like, okay, that sound is clearly a weak spot. I need to drill that.
Precisely. You take that moment of frustration, that mistake, and you turn it into fuel. Fuel for a focused practice session tomorrow. The adversity becomes your motivation.
Okay, moving to number 4, meticulous preparation. He was famous for saying things like, confidence is made by thorough preparation. Goof. Basically, do absolutely everything you can, leave no stone unturned, so there's just no room left for doubt.
And for the learner, this is super practical. Confidence when you speak English. It doesn't just appear from thinking positively, it comes only from putting in the hours, the drilling, the practice. It means maybe meticulously preparing answers to common interview questions if you have one coming up, or predicting small talk topics your friend might bring up, and actually writing out or practicing your responses beforehand.
So it's like anticipating every possible scenario you might face.
Pretty much. If you're afraid to speak in a certain situation, that fear is often a sign that your preparation for that specific situation isn't quite there yet. You conquer the self-doubt by over-preparing the fundamentals you'll need.
Which logically leads us right into the final principle, unwavering self-confidence. After all that work, all the preparation, the endless curiosity facing adversity, you have to trust the work you've done. Kobe famously asked, if I don't believe in myself, who will?
Yeah. After you've done the research, put in the hours, drill the hard stuff, this is the final step. It's a conscious choice. The choice to be confident when you speak or write. It's the trust that lets you step up and actually use all that preparation, knowing that, yeah, maybe you'll still make a mistake here or there, but the foundation you built is solid.
It's that necessary final leap, isn't it, before you can actually perform, whether performing means hitting a game-winning shot or, having a successful conversation entirely in English. And we can see this whole philosophy playing out, not just in basketball, but in completely different areas, too. Let's talk about that legendary work ethic. That's probably the most famous part of the Mamba mentality.
Oh, yeah. The 4 a.m. experiment story comes to mind. Remember that? A trainer shows up at like 3:30 a.m. for a 4 a.m. workout, and Kobe's already there, dripping in sweat. Yeah. Already deep into it.
Right. And Kobe apparently clarified, 4 a.m. wasn't the start time for warming up. 4 a.m. was when the real hard work began. And this wasn't just about punishing himself, was it? It was strategic. It was about getting an edge while everyone else was still asleep.
Absolutely. And that principle, it translates directly to you, the learner. That extra 15 minutes you spend on vocabulary review while maybe your friends are just scrolling through social media, that's your competitive advantage. It's that small window where you get ahead, not just in your English level maybe, but in building that crucial discipline muscle.
What's really fascinating, though, is how this Mamba mentality went way beyond basketball. It proved its universality.
Totally. Look at what he did after his playing career. In 2018, he won an Oscar, an Academy Award for his animated short film, Dear Basketball.
Yeah.
He applied the exact same principles, meticulous preparation, endless curiosity, but in a totally new field, filmmaking and storytelling. He was determined to master it. And he didn't just wing it. He sought out and collaborated with the absolute best, like the legendary Disney animator Glenn Keane, learning relentlessly.
Wow. So he approached the film industry with the same intensity he used to study an opponent on the court.
Precisely. And then there's his business acumen, too. Remember that investment in Body Armor, the sports drink? He put in, what, $6 million back in 2014? By the time Coca-Cola acquired a stake, his share was reportedly worth hundreds of millions.
Yeah, that kind of return isn't just luck. That's serious analytical thinking applied.
He saw a weakness in the market, right? The existing sports drinks weren't innovating much. So he applied the same kind of analytical rigor he used to break down defenses on the court, to break down the business landscape. It just proves the philosophy isn't just about sports. It works for achieving excellence in pretty much any field, including mastering a new language.
Okay, let's wrap up with some of the really lasting lessons here. Especially for learners who might be facing that, daily grind of studying. Kobe was known for these incredible, flashy ploys, obviously, but people close to him always said his greatness was actually built on something less glamorous. Perfect footwork, basic skills, mastered through thousands and thousands of hours of repetition.
And that's maybe the toughest truth about learning anything complex, including English. real mastery. It comes from drilling the fundamentals
Mm.
over and over. Grammar exercises, vocabulary lists, pronunciation practice. You almost have to learn to, well, maybe not love, but at least respect and commit to the monotonous, daily, sometimes tedious work, because that's where the solid foundation gets built.
It sounds like this mentality also demands a really high level of self-honesty. How do we make sure we're using failure as data, like you said, and not just beating ourselves up and burning out?
Well, for Kobe, it seems failure was never like the end of the story. It was just information, data points for the next attempt, the next level of growth. True mental toughness isn't really about not feeling fear or frustration. It's about acting despite those feelings.
Mm.
So when you make a mistake, you acknowledge it, you extract the lesson, the data, and you immediately apply that lesson to the very next repetition.
Yeah.
You're refining your technique, not judging your worth as a person.
Hmm. And perhaps the final, maybe deepest lesson from his life is that it was a story of evolution, wasn't it? He very consciously shifted his focus from being this incredibly fierce, ruthless competitor to becoming a storyteller, a businessman, a very involved father.
Right. The Mamba mentality itself, that relentless drive, it stayed. But how he applied it, where he focused that energy, that evolved significantly throughout his life. And as an English learner, you have to evolve too. Your Mamba strategy for learning might look very different when you're a beginner just trying to understand basic conversations compared to when you're advanced and need sophisticated negotiation skills for work. The underlying drive for excellence remains, but the specific focus, the application, it has to shift and adapt.
That's really profound. It's not just about winning one battle, it's about continuous growth and intelligently choosing where to apply that intense effort. So, as we finish up this deep dive, here's something to think about, a provocative thought for you, the listener. What does success look like for you right now, today, in your English learning journey? And maybe more importantly, what are you willing to sacrifice? What comfortable habits or distractions might you need to let go of to achieve that level of excellence you're aiming for? Remember Kobe's pretty uncompromising view. If you want to be great at something, you have to make choices, and there are things you have to sacrifice.
So we've tried to unpack the blueprint of a legend here and hopefully translate it into some really actionable advice for your English studies. The principles themselves, they sound simple, right?
Yeah.
But putting them into practice consistently, that takes real dedication.
Absolutely. So maybe just pick one. Take one of those 5 Mamba principles we talked about, maybe meticulous preparation, maybe process over results, and really try to apply it ruthlessly, consistently to your English study just this week. See what happens.
Thank you so much for joining us for this deep dive.
We really hope this has given you a powerful dose of motivation. Keep practicing, keep learning, and we'll see you in the next video.